Hey everyone, this is Tony. I noticed that there have been a lot of views lately on my Pawpaw guide video, and quite a bit of new subscribers as well because of that. So I figured I'd make just a short update video on my own in-ground Pawpaw trees, just to let you know how they're doing and see if people are interested in this sort of thing. You know, just me talking about my fruit trees and maybe other plants that I grow, and how I'm growing them, how they're doing, stuff like that. So anyway, this is well, it's mid-October right now, so and it's just starting to get cold. We had a nice warm spell recently, but it's really cooling off now, and leaves are changing color and dropping. But this is right here is one of my Pawpaw trees that I featured in the Pawpaw guide video. I think it was the first in-ground tree that I was showing, and this is a variety called Mango, and it is currently my tallest Pawpaw tree. It's over 8 foot right now. In the video I think it was about only 2 foot tall, but that was 4 years ago, so it's doing pretty well. This one hasn't fruited for me yet, not quite yet. I have 3 others in ground that did fruit for me this year, even though they're not as big as this one. Mango is known to be a vigorous grower, but it doesn't seem precocious. So precocity describes how likely a fruit tree, or even animals for that matter, how likely they are to bear fruit at a young age. And this one just doesn't seem to want to put out flowers. Not until this year did it develop dormant flower buds. I didn't have any flowers this spring, but I'll show you if I can find one. I think there's one right here. It'll focus. Yeah, you can see right here, there's a dormant flower bud right there, but there aren't too many on the tree. Not a lot that I can find, but hopefully that means that it'll flower next year, and possibly, like a few clusters of fruit or so. I haven't really looked throughout the whole tree for them, but I've only found a few so far, and they're hard to find. But hopefully it'll bear fruit next year so I can taste that one. But yeah, it's doing really well. It has a nice full shape. It's always been my bushiest tree, and it's now my tallest tree. So it is a fast grower, but just doesn't seem to want to bear fruit at an early age. So maybe, I don't know if a vigorous growing tree is quite as good as a tree that's precocious, but a tree that had both of those qualities would be really nice. But this is my Shenandoah tree, and it has been precocious. It set flowers at I think after the first year after I planted it, so it was only 1.5 feet tall, and it had flowers on it. Its first spring here. But it did fruit this year. It set quite a few fruits. It is a larger sized variety. I mean, the fruits are a larger size. So there are actually a couple still on here. And Shenandoah is a pretty mild tasting variety. So it's nice if for people who aren't sure if they're going to like pawpaws or not, or don't like the strong tasting fruits. But you can see the fruits right here, and this one's about to fall off. You can see right there that it's separating from the stem, so it's going to fall off probably within like a few hours. It's a pretty windy day here. If I don't pick it, I'm probably just going to pick that. I'll just pick it right now because I'd rather it not get bruised. Yep. So I'll set this down here. set about 30 fruits for me this year in its first year, which is really nice, and they're all a large size. I think this one and my other one over here, Allegheny, they both would have fruited last year, I'm assuming, but we had a late freeze last year in like mid-May. It was a pretty hard freeze, and unfortunately that freeze killed all the flowers on the trees, so I didn't get any fruit from them last year. That happened to almost all my other fruit trees as well, which is really unfortunate. It was kind of a freak thing. That doesn't happen that often here, that we get such a late, strong freeze. I apologize if there's a lot of wind noise. There's not much I can do about that. But yeah, that set about 30 fruits, and which was great. I think that's really good for its first year fruiting. And this one set, twice that. It set about 60 fruits. And it's my second tallest tree. It's almost as tall as the mango. It's about almost 8 foot, whereas the Shenandoah's, that's a little over 7 foot. And then I have a Wabash there that's also like 7.5 foot. But yeah, this Allegheny set a lot of fruit. The fruits on this one do tend to be smaller, so they're all, on average, about half the size of the Shenandoah's. So I got probably equal amounts in mass between the two. Although the Shenandoah's maybe are a little over twice the size, maybe. But they were both really productive, and yeah, the fruits were smaller on this, but they were really good. It has a nice, very well balanced taste to it. Yeah, I'm really happy with that tree, how well it did. And over here is, it doesn't have any, there's no fruit on this. It dropped all of its fruit. I think the last one dropped about a week ago. I think all three of these trees started fruiting at the same time, all on September 14th. It was the first day I got a fruit from each of them. And yeah, this is probably the last day I get fruit from the Shenandoah and the Wabash over here. It's about to drop the couple of fruits that it has still left on it. But yeah, this is a variety called Wabash, and still has a small cluster on it right here. Actually, the one just dropped a little while ago. You can see it on the ground here. So this is this variety tends to have kind of rounder shaped fruits. They're not as elongated, they're more spherical. Yeah, this is my first year tasting this one, so I'm still kind of trying to get an idea with it. This one only set maybe like 10 to 12 fruits, so I'm still kind of tasting them and trying to see what they're like. So I don't want to give any impressions on this one quite yet, because I'm still kind of figuring it out. But it is good. I know it is very sweet. It was the sweetest of the three varieties I tasted this year. Yeah, I can show you, well, seeing as the mango only had that one dormant bud, these ones have a lot. You can see, all these dormant buds here, these dark round shaped buds. These will be next year's flowers. So I'm definitely going to get a lot from all these trees again, provided that there's no late freeze. There's a bunch on Allegheny too. It's going to be loaded. Allegheny had so many flowers on it this year. They're really beautiful trees, and they're in full bloom. And you can see Shenandoah here has a lot. And yeah, I have this green, tape here that was holding branches up, because Shenandoah, the clusters on it just got so heavy they were weighing down the branches. And I actually had one break It was on the back side here. I think it was right here. Yeah, that unfortunately broke off. It had like, I don't know, 2 or 3 clusters on it, maybe like 8 fruits total. And that was just way too many for that branch. And it broke off. I think that was like in July. So what I did in the summer was, well, about in June. In June, usually fruits will drop off. Like, it'll form the little fruitlets after the flowers bloom and die back. And then in June, it's called June drop, where the flowers or the little fruits will naturally just fall off because the trees tend to know how much they can handle. So they'll drop off, a lot of the little tiny fruitlets at that point. And then what I did I think later in June, was I thinned them. So I went through all these trees, well, not that one, but these 3 trees, and I thinned them out. I picked off, a whole bunch of fruits. Because, especially with Allegheny, it tends to be too productive, and so if you don't thin a lot of the fruits out, cut a lot of them off, the fruits will be really small. And Allegheny is already kind of a smaller size variety as far as the fruits go. So thinning them out helps to allow the branches to be able to handle the weight. And last year, we had a long drought last year from like late June all the way through mid to late August. And that was pretty bad. Pawpaw trees really hate droughts, so they all kind of stalled their growth. I didn't get too much growth off of them. You can see there's a whole bunch of trees in tree tubes over there. And, some of those, they're younger, and so they really didn't handle the drought too well. A lot of them, just didn't grow much at all, or even had some dieback because of that drought. I had to water them a lot. You have to do that a lot if you're gonna, if you have a drought. Pawpaws really hate it, so you gotta water them quite a bit. But anyway, I think that caused some of the branches to be not quite as strong as they should have been, so I had to support them. Oh, and there are actually a couple fruits down here that I think there were fruits that had dropped off from that cluster or that branch that broke off in July. Some of those fruits just kind of fell on the ground after it broke off, and you can see them down here. If I can reach down in, they're just solid hard black fruits. That's what happens if you have an unripe fruit. If you pick it like before they're ripe, they just stay hard and go straight to black, and they're just no good. But I mean, that was obviously really early in the season. There was no way they were going to be any good. But I can show you some of these trees that I have in tubes over here. And I have them in tree tubes because, I like this system of having them, with this wire fencing and a really, a wide ring of mulch. But that can get kind of expensive, buying that much wire fencing and having the mulch that wide and trying to, keep up with the weeding and stuff like that. So these tree tubes, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way. And the big reason I have, the wire fencing and the tubes is because of deer, particularly bucks. In the fall, typically starting in like November, the bucks will start shedding their antlers, and so they'll be rubbing their antlers on trees and branches. And you can see on this lilac tree right here, what they do. They just they rub their antlers on here, and it really beats up on the trunks. And so this trunk's not doing as well. You can see that on some other trunks, like right here. That's all dead, because that's just what they do. So that's, yeah, even in the middle of the tree here. You know, lilacs are pretty resilient, you know. They grow a lot of suckers and grow back well. But with grafted pawpaws, I don't want them, you know, roughing up the one trunk that I grow them on. I don't want them setting up suckers because it's a grafted tree. If they kill the, you know, the top part of the tree, then, you know, a sucker can come up, but I'm going to have to regraft it again. It really sets the tree back. But these are doing pretty well. This is a variety called Chappelle, or KSU Chappelle. And it's supposed to be a rather vigorous variety, and it was until this year. For some reason this year it hasn't grown that much for me. I'm not sure why. But others have. You know, sometimes it's just the rootstock, you know, whatever the seedling that it's grown on, you know, just the genetics of how vigorous it is. So I have a bunch of varieties in here. I've been grafting them over the past few years. You know, I've been trading with different people, getting a bunch of different varieties. I want to have a large, you know, collection of different varieties. So there are some KSU trees and some older wild varieties and some newer varieties. I think this one right here is PA Golden. So this is an older variety, a pretty common variety, an easy one to get. A lot of nurseries have this. And it's been my most vigorous one in of the younger trees that I have in tubes in the orchard here. And it just really did well this year. It's got a nice thick trunk on it. I don't know if I can show you down at the bottom here under these leaves, but yeah, that trunk's getting nice and thick. And I lift these trunks up. Normally I'd have them all the way to the ground, but in the fall, or in like September, early September, I'll lift them up. Just so, even though they have, you know, lots of holes so they get ventilation, it just helps to get cool air down to the bottom so that they'll go dormant. Because sometimes these tubes can cause like a greenhouse effect in the fall, where on warm sunny days it'll keep the trees really warm and they won't go dormant soon enough in the winter. So then when we get a hard freeze, you know, come November, December, a lot of the top growth can die back because of that. Because it's not lignified yet. You know, the green growth hasn't turned brown and hasn't gone dormant yet. So I'll lift them up in order to get the air down to the bottom, just to get them to go dormant sooner. And yeah, this PA Golden is doing really well for me. It even has a couple flower buds on it for next year, for next spring. So, you know, there's one there. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm excited to taste different varieties. So hopefully someday I'll have a whole bunch of varieties to taste, and you know, I can do a taste test of them and let people know what I think of them. So let me know what you think of videos like this, and I'll see you all later.
Bonus.
Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna pick the rest of the fruits on these trees because they're all soft enough to pick already. There are only 2 fruits left. It's getting cold. It's really windy. You know, there's a good chance they'll probably drop tonight or over the next day or so. So I'm just gonna pick them anyway. Yeah, this is my last Shenandoah. Yeah, it's definitely soft. See, it squishes in real nice and easy. It's definitely soft enough to pick. So, oh yeah, that came off very easily. So that was definitely going to drop probably, you know, this evening or tonight. Okay, so those are the last 2 Shenandoahs. kind of sad to see. It was a nice season. It was really great to have my own pawpaws from my own trees for the first time this year. Very nice. I didn't have to travel. Yeah, I didn't have to drive an hour away to to forage for trees from the wild ones. You know, to be going up to those larger wild trees and shaking them, and I mean giving a gentle shake. I'm not like vigorously shaking them. You know, I just want the ripe ones to fall. But yeah, I don't have to do that anymore. I mean, I still will some years. You can see this one is it's about to fall. You can see it's cracking at the stem there, which is what they do. So let's see if this pries off. Yep. There it goes. Oh, it came off with the stem. Yeah, so that's the last Wabash. It's a pretty good sized one. You can see it's squishes. Yeah, so it's pretty ripe. At least on the top. The bottom's still kind of hard. Yeah, you can see it's a little black or brown on the bottom. That's just from like rubbing against leaves or the branch below it. That's just what happens. But yeah, those are the last two Wabash, and that means all of the fruit from my trees are off the trees now. Those are the last ones. So yeah, that gave about a full month. I think it was September 14th was the first day, and today is October 16th, so gave a full month's worth of fruit. So hopefully in future years, once I get some of these other varieties going, I think I have some that are earlier ripening varieties and some that are more late season varieties. Although this is pretty late in the season already. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how late is too late. Because some years it does tend to get pretty cold earlier than this. But pawpaws are pretty good. They're used to these kind of weather conditions. They're good at still ripening when the weather gets cold. And so anyway, that's it for this video. I'll pan out to all my trees here. Yeah, there's 4 large ones I have in ground, and then there's a bunch of my other orchard trees there. Alright, see you next time.